Now, in recent times, then we've had yoga and this sort of Hindu religion, and that has kind of become acceptable. Certainly when I was a yoga teacher, then many people were like, oh, I'm into yoga, as long as you don't talk about the spiritual side. But we kind of think of it as like well-being, right? It's about healing oneself. And so it's okay. But these days, now people are again becoming more kind of small-minded about these sort of things. And they wonder, when they see people wearing sort of loose pants, might be associated with yoga or something like that, then they think, oh, they're a liberal, they're a lefty. So it's quite difficult. But what am I saying? I'm saying that you have to, in some way, you have to be kind of a beacon for others. And you don't need to do that by dressing up weird, which is often what happens sometimes. For example, when people become Tibetans, or Tibetan Buddhist followers, then this happens in the UK a lot. Then they start growing their hair long and putting in all kinds of jewelry and stuff like that, and wearing kind of Tibetan clothes. And that's unnecessary. And it also will make people think that you're, many people will think you're a weirdo. Of course, it doesn't mean that you're a weirdo. And there's nothing wrong with wearing this clothing that indicates spirituality or being alternative. But for example, if you're working in your office or in your workplace, it could be an office, it could be McDonald's, whatever it is. And if you have a kind of good outlook, and it's obvious that your outlook means that you are a more stable individual, then you will make others feel calm. I know this from personal experience. Many years ago, then I used to have a restaurant. I was cooking in a restaurant. It was a little place, but it was really nice. It was by the sea. And of course, then if you need employees, most of them are like kids, right? Maybe as young as 15 years old. They want extra money in the holidays, especially if it's by the seaside because it's busy in the holidays. And so most of the people wash dishes and waitresses, they were all quite young. And there was this one guy, he was 18, and his name's Bill. He's a friend of mine. You might have seen him actually in one of my videos. He was driving me around the UK. And he was my dishwasher. And in those days, I was a layperson, right? I wasn't wearing monk's robes. I just looked like an everyday Joe, yoga teacher, but I just wore normal clothing. And we spent a lot of time, obviously, because I was cooking and he was washing the dishes, and we would chat. And it was through that he made the decision to become a Buddhist. And he tells me to this day that it was from that interaction that kind of saved his life or changed the path of his life. He was in a pretty dark place, as many young people are these days. And he'd never heard this kind of Buddhist perspective. And just through normal conversation, what has happened is that he's come to change his outlook on the world. And it's made him a much happier person. And he's kind of found his spirituality. But similarly, then Bill's a very kind of normal guy. In fact, he works in the army in the UK. I think he's actually in the Navy. And he's a very kind of normal guy, He's got 2 kids. He goes jogging. He trains people, does training in the British Navy. This kind of background is very quite, working class and conservative, really. But he's a Buddhist, and he's quite proud of that. And on his dog tags, it's got Buddhist. So this is the way that we influence the world. The situation in Israel, for example. So it's terrible. It's really hard to deal with, but you have to use your practice to convert your frustration into compassion and strengthen your love. But the danger there is that we get wrapped up into it, right? Just like everybody else. We get wrapped up into this cycle of frustration, like there's nothing that can be done. And that sucks up all your positive energy. Your practice, changing your outlook, the Buddhist outlook, let's say, doesn't have to be Buddhist. The Christian outlook is also very good if you interpret it correctly. Then will help you to deal with the mundane world and also help you to have a positive influence on others. And in this case, that positive influence is the influence for people not to become radicalized, to become angry and violent, because that doesn't help, right? we need to find positive solutions. And in that way, then the world will improve. And the place that we start is right here. This is where it all begins. We change the person in the mirror. And then by that, we influence others. And this is really what the spiritual path is about. And especially when we talk about, well, all spirituality in general is based on altruism, right? So the eventual, ultimate goal is to help all others. And not to think there are those who are our enemies and they have to be eliminated. But to bring everyone else along with us on this path.